right. I finally get to do this one. Hey, everybody, Justin here, and today I'm going to be finally, after I think 2 years of owning this, going to demo and review the Roland VR-760 V-Combo. Oh, good. I see the audio's working, so that's awesome. If you're wondering what I'm looking at, I've got my iPad over here so I can see the chat. I've got a kind of interesting camera setup here. Um, because my webcam is actually at the house. I'm at the church right now. Um, I'll be living on campus soon, but again, half my stuff is at the house, so I'm actually using the camera from my MacBook to do the shot of the keyboard, and then I've got my iPad down here so I can see the chat and see your comments. But nonetheless, I finally get to do this. So, what is the Roland V-Combo VR-760? So, the V-Combo has been out for a while, and it was Roland's main line of all-in-one, performance keyboards, your organ, piano, synth, all that stuff, until the introduction of the V stage. I think that was last year. So I'm assuming the V-Combo is still in production, at least the VR09B, which I think is around the 1,000 to 1,100 US dollar range, I'm guessing. But the V-Combo all started with this guy right here back in, I think, 2002. So if you're familiar with what the Nord stage is, this was the Nord stage before the Nord stage. So this, I believe, was the first all-in-one, what you would call a performance keyboard, a gigging instrument. So it had basic piano, organ, and synth sounds. So it had enough stuff to get you through a gig. Sean, how you doing? Good to see you in the chat. So this would have been the Nord stage before the Nord stage. So the Nord stage came out in 2005. I want to say this had a price tag of about 2,400, but which I think is a good deal for what you get, or for what you got, because it came with the VK8 organ engine. So the organ engine in here is, I believe, from the VK8. You also had some basic piano sounds, and you had some basic synthesizer sounds. You've also got some really basic effects. So each section has their own set of effects. And then you've also got a global reverb up here, as well as a master EQ. The other thing, let me take a look here because I've never actually used the active expression over here. So the thing I like about this is everything is clearly laid out. Nice big print. I could see where everything is. There's nothing really cluttered. That's one of my frustrations with the N word. You know, other than $6,000 for a fancy paint job, is all their interfaces are really cluttered. There's a ton of stuff on them. I know they're trying to be like the ultimate performance keyboard, but I've played many a Nord keyboard and I've always been frustrated with them. If I need to create like a piano and string layer or a piano and a pad layer like quickly, I find it very, very difficult to do on a Nord. Never been able to do it. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and just quickly go over what you have, on the front panel. We'll talk about what's, on the back. And then I'll play you through some sounds. And then we'll kind of wrap things up. So let me get a little hit of caffeine. Those of you synth nerds might notice the Yamaha QX3 that I've got over here on the right. But anyway, not to mention the M8X, but we're not talking about this. We're talking about this. All right. So I'm going to start with the keyboard. First thing I'm going to do is go back to my my basic organ sound. So this keyboard is a 76 note, very, very lightweight waterfall action. Extremely lightweight, very fast, very easy to play. A lot of modern waterfall actions like the Nord series and even the Hammond stuff, I find them to be very, very stiff, very springy, and a lot of resistance, especially when you hold a key down. The way you can check the resistance is play a chord, and you can kind of feel, if you pay attention, you can feel how much the keys are, kind of pressing against your hand. This is really, really easy to play. I'm going to clean up the... So this is a very fast action and a very light action, so I can do stuff like this. With like very little effort at all. The other thing that this has that I haven't seen any other keyboard have, that I haven't seen any, I haven't seen this feature in any of the keyboard. This has an adjustable trigger point. Now, granted, you only have 2 adjustments, but it's adjustable. Oh, hey, how you doing? Dragon. So, this has an adjustable trigger point on the organ. And there's 2 points. You have a high setting and you have a low setting. The high setting, I've got the key pressed maybe about halfway down, and it's triggering. So it makes it easy for somebody like me that had carpal tunnel years ago. It's a really easy instrument to play. And that's what I look for in an instrument. Can I play it? How much resistance is the instrument going to give me? Am I going to get out of it what I put into it? And the answer with this is yes. If I had it set to the low trigger point, it would trigger when the key is all the way down. But it's a very nice touch that Roland gave you that adjustment, So that's the key bed. Very, very nice key bed. I quite like it a lot. To the left, we have Roland's familiar paddle system. So left and right is a pitch bend, and up is modulation. So very, very traditional thing that you'd find on the Roland instruments. And now we've got we have 2 levels here. We have the upper level and we have the lower level of controls. I'm going to start with the lower, and then we'll move to the upper. So to the left, all the way to the far left, we have actual drawbars. They're not sliders. They're not buttons, Nord. And it's about time Nord actually started putting sliders on their stuff instead of the draw buttons. I don't know why it took them so long to do that, but we have actual... Let me turn the percussion off. But we have actual drawbars. And just like on a Hammond, you can mix and match. So I'm going to just go with the basic 3, bottom 3 out. Next to that, we have the organ section. So we have the tone wheel model. We have 3 different tone wheels. We have 2 levels of vintage, and we have a clean. That's the clean. Vintage 1, vintage 2. So the two vintage models give you leakage between all the tone wheels, and you can hear that. So that's clean. That's vintage 1. So you hear some leakage. That's vintage 2. Vintage 2 is a little bit warmer, but it gives you less leakage. So vintage 2 is my preferred. It weighs about 40 pounds, 40 to 45 pounds. And honestly, I couldn't care less about what it weighs. It means it was built for the road. The only plastic on here, as far as I can tell, is this block right here that has the pitch lever. Metal, bottom is metal, the sides are, wooden. So the construction is, I would say top notch. I can honestly say they don't make them like they used to. We'll check that out when we get to the synth section. I mean, I've used the Korg. I've used Korg stuff for quite a bit, so I'm used to like side to side pitch bend, as well as the modulation and all that. But I'll get to that when I get to that. All right, so I like vintage too. Next to that, we have the vibrato chorus section. So that turns on. So chorus 3 is probably going to be your more popular option, but it's basically modeling the scanner vibrato and chorus that's in the Hammond B3 organ. And I barely use it unless I'm doing a lot of jazz organ, and I don't do a whole lot of jazz organ. Next to that is the percussion. So what that does is it replaces the 9th drawbar with percussion, and it did the same thing on an original Hammond organ. So if I hit either second or third, it's going to turn the percussion on. So here's the second harmonic. There's the third. And you've got all the traditional controls for the percussion section. You have the harmonic. You can have the percussion soft. You can have it louder. So that's soft. That's the loud set. You can also slow the decay down. I like using the second harmonic, soft, and then fast decay. So that gives me a little bit of extra attack. Yeah, it gives me a little extra attack when I'm playing, and it lets the organ cut through the mix a little bit, especially when I start using overdrive. Speaking of overdrive, that's what's next. We have the Cosm amplifier section, and you have 4 different types, and that pertains to the type of overdrive you're going to get. That's type 1. Here's type 2. It's more kind of a, like a John Lord, kind of sound. So a little less bottom end in that one. Type 3. That one's got a bit of a harsher tone to it. And type 4. That's what's going to give you the most grit, especially when you crank it up to 11. That's what gives you that kind of deep purple. So I like Type 4, and I like just a tiny little bit of overdrive on it. Okay, next to the overdrive we have the rotary simulator, which is basically your Leslie. So that's the slow. That's the fast. It's passable. It's probably not the best rotary sim that I've heard. That would probably belong to the Neo Ventilator 2 pedal. But I've had band members say that really praise the rotary sound in this, especially in a band mix. It really sits well in a band mix. It's not too pronounced, so you know to me that's really important to me. I don't care how authentic it is in a band mix. Obviously, I could just take this and run it through a ventilator, and bypass the overdrive on the ventilator because I don't like the overdrive on that pedal. I find it really, really harsh. But I can always use the onboard overdrive and then simply bypass the rotary on here and then run this through a ventilator. So we have a slow fast control here. We have a brake. And then you have an on-off kind of a bypass switch over here. And then next to that, you have a volume control for the organ section. Matter of fact, each section all the way on the far right has its own volume control. So that is the organ section. Let's move over to the piano section. For the piano section, we have your tone selector, and you basically have 3 categories with 3 variations per category. So, for example, here's the acoustic piano. Here's the concert grand. Oh, let me shut the organ off. So for me, it'll do in a pinch, but when I gig out, I don't gig out without the M8X. This piano would be passable, and it would be a good backup if the M8X ever were to fail on a gig. The thing I'm finding is the decay is a little too fast. So playing slow stuff on here, it's almost a little too percussive. But that's the concert grand. Here's the classical. Decay is actually a little bit shorter on this one. And here's the third one. This is the European piano. advice to anybody that owns this instrument is I would maybe spring for the SRX expansion. And by the way, this can take up to 2 SRX expansion boards. I would see about springing for the piano board if you plan on wanting to play piano with this, as well as, you know, any of the organ sounds. But I'll talk about the SRX expansion in a little bit. So those are the acoustic pianos. Let's move on to some of the electric pianos. Curious now. This mic amp control, yeah, doesn't do anything on the acoustic pianos. So that's the Rhodes. That's the Mark II. Man with beard, how are you? Put some auto pan on it, so we've got effects on here too. Basically modulation effects. There's 4 of them on here. A little more reverb. I kind of like that. I really like that Rhodes sound. Again, it's not, for how old this keyboard is, it's about, like, you know, it's over 20 years old. That's pretty darn good. And the Variation 3. We've got a dyno Rhodes. Let me take the phaser off. What's the chorus sound like? So that's the dyno Rhodes. It's going to be a little bit brighter. A little bit more attack on it. In the other category, this is where you're going to find maybe some whirlies. You might find a clavinet in here, but here's the whirly. I like it more in the like the lower to middle velocity settings. Once you get up high, it starts really sounding synthetic. All right, here's the clav. Very, very bright. So what would happen if I put the wah? Yeah, I don't like the wah. Too much resonance on it. I think if you were going to use a clavinet on here, I would maybe go for... I would maybe go for one on a on one of the SRX boards. And then we got a harpsichord. So then you could do stuff like... So let me go back to the piano, actually to the electric piano. So next to the next to the tone, we have a mic in amp simulator with a knob controlling the miking distance, and we've got two different types. So type 1 is going to be a little bit more meat, type 2 is going to be a little bit brighter. Next to that, we have the MFX section, so these are modulation effects. I just demoed a couple of them earlier with the electric pianos, but you have 4 of them. You've got a chorus, tremolo. The wah-wah I would avoid at all costs. Too much resonance on it. It would have been nice if it were an auto wah, so it would trigger, like an auto wah kind of does, instead of having it being, basically an LFO thing. And then you've got a phaser on here. So let me try the phaser. Let me see if I could dial it in on the yeah, it's good. If I can dial it in to kind of get that 70s, Steely Dan, Donald Fagen kind of sound. That always works for me. And then we got the volume control. So that's the piano section. Now we go over to the synth. So we have 6 categories, 3 variations per category. And then we have a 7th, which is your SRX expansion. So this keyboard can take up to 2 SRX boards. And when I bought this 2 years ago, I had no idea, it came loaded with 2 SRX boards. It came with the studio board and the world board. I will not have time to browse through any of those sounds for this. The way that you browse sounds on the SRX board is there's a plus and minus button up here. And I can't remember, but there's a shortcut where you can jump, I think by tens or by hundreds or whatever it was. But let me see if I can find it. Yeah, see, I remember the shortcut, but you can jump by groups of 10. But you have no other way to browse through the SRX boards, the SRX sounds, other than the plus and minus button. I think there's a shortcut, and I looked in the Roland manual back when I got this, but I can't remember because the Roland manual is written in Egyptian hieroglyphics. And if you know what I'm talking about, it's one of those if you know things. But when you've got both SRX boards loaded in here, you've probably got maybe 1,000 extra sounds in here. So it really is a pain to navigate them all, which is why, if you wind up using them, if you want to use some of the sounds on a gig, it is best to set up some registrations with those sounds. Yeah, the phaser's pretty good. I will give it. I'll give it that. I do like the phaser on here. I like the chorus on here too. Chorus is nice and full. But so anyway, we've got some strings. So we got two sets of like natural strings. One's a little bit brighter than the other, and then we've got what they call Jupiter 8 strings. I quite like these. We've got choir sounds. I don't know how many people use these. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then variation 3, you've got the famous jazz scat kind of sound. So instant take 6. All right, now we got brass. So we've got some natural horns. Wait, where's the natural? Here's the natural one. And we got some French horns. And we can get all Hans Zimmer. The third variation is kind of a synth, almost like an Oberheim-y kind of brass. We got basic synth leads. There's a saw. There's kind of a Lyle Mays sound. And then the third one is what they call a retro lead. With a little too much delay on it. harsh, but if you want a lead that'll cut through the mix, that'll do it. All right, pads. We've got 3 of them. It's like an OB pad with a little bit of phaser on it. It's another string pad. Yeah, if being a Roland, if you're talking about the weight, well, this was 20 years ago before Roland really started cheaping out on the construction on a lot of their keyboards. But it would have been nice if they would have had a warm pad sound. So to make that, take the 2.3 pad. Now over to the right of the tone selection, we have a couple of synth controls. We have attack and release, and we have cutoff and resonance. However, there's not a lot of resonance happening. So I think some of the sounds have that resonance, others not so much. But what if I wanted to layer that with like an E piano? So I can do that, but I have to kind of sculpt the sound first. But you also have the option of using an SRX sound if you have the right SRX boards in here, the right combination of them. But to the right of that, you have basic controls. Like I said, you have attack, release, cutoff, and resonance. The attack and release are global. So I think they're going to either affect the amp, the filter, or both, depending on the preset that you choose. To the right of that, you have a multi-effects. That is on a per tone. So all the tones are going to have different multi-effects. So we also have, to the right of that, active expression. That's what I'm messing around with right now. You have a button for fade, which I'm guessing is turning on and off the filter envelope. Again, these are different per patch. The timbre kind of adjusts the whole tonal quality of the sound. So basically, I've got that that fat brass on here, the OB. And I'm just hitting the timbre button. And then to the right of that active expression, we have synth volume. So that's each section down here. So each of the 3 sections on this. At the top level, we have the master volume, Self-explanatory, the over volume control of the instrument. To the right of that, we have a rhythm section. So you've got built-in drums. You can change the let me see here. So you've got built-in drums. You're able to change the tempo. There's no tap tempo on here, unfortunately. All right, so, and then we have a volume control for that. So if I wanted to jam along to, a drum pattern. So you got a kind of a very rudimentary basic, drum machine. You don't have any fill controls, so you don't have any variations. You basically got just a single drum pattern. But, if you find you want something to jam along with, then you have that. To the right, we have the famous or infamous D-beam controller. So the D-beam here does 3 different functions. For the organ, it's a Leslie control. I never use it. I've got a foot switch down here that does the Leslie control. But a cool little tip and trick is if you turn that on, you don't use the D-beam. If you're in a brightly lit area like outdoors, you can use it to see, where your Leslie speed is. So if it's slow, it'll light up red. If it's fast, it'll light up blue. For the piano, it does octaves. Problem is, you're stuck playing with one hand because wherever you want that octave set, you kind of have to leave your hand there. For the synth section, it's a glide control. I used to have a D10, Man with Beard. Yeah, it had some rhythms on it too. In a way, I kind of miss it. I could get some good sounds out of it. Just stay away from the 110. That module was a nightmare. Shabba Overload. I see you in the chat. So yeah, the DB does very, very basic things. Like I said, I'll never use it. To the right of that, you have a very basic 2-line LCD screen with an LED screen. The LED numbers are showing you your what registration you're on, the bank and the number. And then to the right of that, you have arrow keys to navigate around the screen. You have increment, decrement buttons, and then you have an enter and an exit. So what's nice is, it's kind of clearly laid out how to navigate around this thing. To the right of that, you have the registration section over here with the V-Link. I have no idea what the V-Link does. I've never used it. I've never seen it in action, so don't ask me on that. I'm sure there's other videos around YouTube that'll explain that. But with the registration, if you have a setup that you like, whether it's an organ setup or a piano or whatever, or some of the SRX sounds, if you've got a layer or a split setup and you want to save it and you want to be able to call it up, that's where this comes in. You basically would select your bank, and then select, where you want the registration. It's pretty straightforward once you get the hang of setting that up. And then we also have, we have H-bar manual. So when you press that, that's basically wherever you have your drawbars set. If you hit that, it basically puts it into manual mode instead of, it basically overrides the presets. We have a split button, so you're able to split the instruments, in various ways. So you can basically split any two sections. So if you wanted the piano down here and the organ up here, you could do that. Or if you wanted the piano down here and the synth up here, or the synth down here and the piano up here. I just realized I didn't demonstrate the bass sounds, but we'll get, what, we'll do that now. So what I'm going to do is put piano on the top. Synth on the bottom, and then I'm going to grab a bass sound. And I'm split right at C4. And I don't have a shortcut key to use the keyboard to adjust the split points, so you have to do that manually. So if I want to drop it down to here, you want to go down to F sharp 3. So if I want it down here, and then if I find a combination that I like, then I would save it into the registration. And then you have the edit button, and when you hit the edit button, these registration buttons will navigate through, what you're editing. Next to that, you have your master reverb with 3 different types of reverbs. So I'm going to go back to there we go, nice pad sound. So you have 3 different types of reverbs. You have hall. You've got a hall reverb, a room reverb, and a church reverb. I like the church one. And I've always thought Roland had good reverbs in their instruments. But what I do is I use it very, very, very sparsely. Especially on my organ. All I'm doing is just opening the sound up a little bit. And then to the right of that, you have a master EQ. It's a 3-band, and you've got a sweepable mid. Let Maybe that's why this thing sounded so bright. The high knob was turned all the way up, so I just flattened it out. I never use that. If I do any EQ, I do it on my soundboard. Yeah, you can't do a combi on either side. It's one section, so you basically you can't layer anything together. It's when you split, you've only got your choice of like one section. You can't do any. You can't do any like one thing down here and two things up here. You can on the CK88 that I reviewed a couple of years ago. You are able to do that, just not on here. So I can go through a couple of registrations that I've got set up here. So that's my main. That's my main organ. It's got a little bit of grit on it. Here's. More dirtier organ sound. I don't know what else is in these banks, but if I go to bank 2, I have a couple of sounds that I pulled from the SRX boards that I have in here. Here's one of them. Another one. Electronic composer, how are you? It's also got a massive amount of delay on it. What else do I have? So that's in the SRX board. It's a basic brass sound. So you do stuff like that. Very eerie Mellotron kind of sound. This is a basic kind of Fantasia sound. Layer it with a piano. If you go into the edit menu, you can change the octaves of these. So if I wanted to drop the Fantasia pad down an octave, I could. Almost like a calliope kind of sound. I forgot what I put in a lot of these. Glide time's a little long. Okay, here's another little quirk with these early Roland instruments, and I had a Juno G that did this. If you play a lead sound, you got to remember that they're multi-samples, so they're zoned. So if I come down here, and I got this thing, it's in legato mode. It's the way the sound is set up. You can't change that. I come down here, and I want to do a long portamento up here. Watch what happens. It's going to top out right around there. So it's a little quirk, and I could never figure out why they never addressed that. But if I come down from the top, it stretches that multi-sample all the way down. So that's a little quirk with some of the mono/legato sounds. If I go into bank 3, I've got a couple of things in here. I got a couple of Tron sounds that I pulled from the Studio SRX. And then here's very nice Tron strings. But yeah, that's kind of most of the sounds that I have. But you have a few possibilities. But you kind of get the idea that it's really a bread and butter instrument. But if you throw the right combination of expansion cards in here, you kind of can make it. You can really tailor it to what your needs are, but it's going to cost you a little bit of money to get the SRX cards because they're not really that cheap. Yeah, Prague, exactly, especially with the string sound. I really want to get Prague. Hammond in there. you can really get prog stuff in there. But you do kind of have to set it up with what sounds you're going to want for your gig. But the reason I got it was really just for the organ sounds. And then I've got an expression pedal under my right foot. If I draw back on it, it'll clean up the it'll start cleaning up the overdrive. All right, so that's how it sounds. That's the front panel. What do we got on the back panel? We have a headphone out. We have XLR outs. I don't know why more professional keyboards don't do this. I kind of wish the M8X had XLR outs, but it does have balanced outs. They're just 1/4 inch. But XLR outs, these are high level outputs, so you will want to, if you go into your sound system or you go into a keyboard amp, watch your input gain. If you need to, if you still want to use the XLR outs, see if your mixer has a pad on the channels, or get a DI box that has like a minus 20 dB cut on it. But I highly recommend going with using XLR outs. Then you've got a pair 1/4 inch unbalanced. Next to that, we have 3 pedal inputs. You have one for the control pedal, which is a switch pedal. I've got that set up to control the Leslie speed. Next to that, we have expression. So I've got an expression pedal, and then you have a damper pedal. Next to that, you have the contrast knob for the screen. And where do I have that set? I've got it all the way maxed because I'm viewing it at a pretty sharp angle. Next to that, we have MIDI in, out, and through. And then next to that, we have a compact flash. Believe this is a compact flash slot, and it's basically a memory card for you to store really just registrations. And then underneath, there's a plate that you can pull off to get to the SRX boards. Build quality is outstanding. I bought this used on Reverb, so the end caps do have some wear and tear, but regular, normal wear and tear. Roland refers to that as battle scars. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't mind, like, if these really get worn down, I wouldn't mind, like, maybe swapping them out. But it really does make the instrument look nice. Like I said, the only plastic as far as the body is right here around the paddle control. Everything else, top, bottom, metal. And like I said, I don't know why Roland doesn't make more of their instruments like this. I think it's to cut cost, but really, do you have to use cheap plastic? And Yamaha, I'm talking to you too. I mean, I know it's to cut, cost cutting and maybe cutting down the weight, but for me personally, I've got a 61-pound M8X and I've got a 40-pound organ up here. Number one, it keeps me in shape, and number two, I know this stuff is built for gigging out. The key bed compared to the M8X, man with beard. So it's a completely different action than the M8X. The M8X is great for playing piano, and I can do some, synth stuff on it. This is what's called a waterfall action. It's very light, it's very quick, it's very fast. I talked about this at the beginning of the review. So what's the difference? So physically, the difference is on a piano-style keyboard, and I'd say about 90%, maybe 100% of the synth actions out there, there's a little tiny lip along the bottom, along the top here. On a waterfall, it's smooth. That's why they call it a waterfall, or they call it a square front. Um, and it's basically supposed to replicate playing a Hammond organ, which most Hammond console organs, actually all Hammond console organs, will have a waterfall action. Some of them might have what are the newer ones, maybe late 70s, early 80s, some of the home models. I think the E series, the H series, those might have the diving board style keys. But there's no lip here, so when you're doing a palm glissando, it's not going to tear your hand up. Now, as far as the weight of the action compared to the M8X, it's extremely light, very light. It's very fast, so I can do rolls very, very quickly, very, very easily, and I'm not like killing myself trying to do them. So I'm not fatigued at all when I'm playing fast like that. Maybe a little bit, but not anywhere over normal. Now the other thing with this action is it has an adjustable trigger point for the organ section, and I talked about this too. I have it set to the high position, so when I go down maybe about halfway, it's going to trigger, not all the way down. You might be able to see that on camera. It's hard to see. Let me come down here. See how low I have that? Or how high I have that? That's all the way down. So that makes playing the organ, at least for me, somebody that had carpal tunnel, I said maybe 8 years ago, my hands have not been the same since. It's a welcome feature for me because it makes playing this instrument so much easier. So yeah, let's see, how long have I been going? Oh, about 110. So yeah, that is the Roland VR-760 V-Combo. This was the first in a line of the V-Combo organs. So you had this, you had the VR-09, the VR-700, the VR-09B, and then the VR-730. So you had 5 models. And then came the V stage in 2025, which basically combines pretty much all their flagship technology, like the VK8 engine. They probably improved that greatly. The V Piano engine and then the Zencore synth engine all into one machine. But I haven't reviewed that yet. But I'm not a big fan of the V Piano engine. I can tell you that right off the bat. So yeah, that's like I said, I've had this for 2 years, and the main reason I got it was for the organ sound. And at $750, it was the cheapest, clone wheel organ I could find on Reverb, eBay, wherever. Plus, it had the bonus of having the SRX boards that came with it too. So I was really super excited about that. Not that I really use them because, like I said, in order to browse through them, you kind of have to go through each sound at a time. And with 1,024, sounds combined across the 2 boards, it gets a little bit tedious trying to find the one that you want. It would be cool if I got my hands on eventually like an XV5080, so I could take the boards out of here, put them in that, and that'll probably give me an easier way to at least browse the presets on them because there's some really good ones. So for what this is, and for what it does, I'm gonna probably give it maybe, like, the organ section is great. Piano section, I mean, I would give the organ maybe a 4 out of 5. The Leslie Sim could be a little bit better. Um, and maybe a couple more tone wheel options. So we get a 4 out of 5 there. I'm going to give the piano a 3 out of 5. The electric pianos are nice. I'm not a big fan of the acoustic pianos, and I'm not a big fan of the others. So actually, I'm going to give it maybe a 2.5 out of 5. And then the synth section, um, maybe a 3 out of 5. Um, there are some usable patches in there, um, but I think what knocks it is you do have some control over the sounds, but you don't know what you're going to get depending on what patch you get. They're not uniform at all across all the sounds in here. And then also the kind of archaic way that you have to browse the SRX sounds. Um, so what did I say? I said 4, 2.5, and then 3. I'm going to say overall, this probably gets maybe a 3.8 out of 5. You know, excellent build quality, great keyboard action, great organ section, good piano section, okay piano section, and good synth section. But what gives it the extra points is the build quality, the action, having the XLR outs, having full 3-port MIDI, so in, out, and through. That's really kind of what, kind of sealed the deal for me. As far as keeping this instrument, I don't think I'm going to let it go. I don't think I'm going to let it go anytime soon. I actually had this at a band rehearsal, like right after I got it, and had it sitting alongside a Hammond XK1C, and most of the band members actually preferred the rotary emulation in this over the XK1C, and I tend to agree. I mean, again, I think it could be better. The only way I would want to run it, say, through like a ventilator pedal would be if this thing had multiple outputs. So if each section had their own outputs, and plus a combined, but it's, just not on an instrument like this. It probably would have cost maybe another $600-700, just for that. But I'm not going to complain about it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'm glad I got to do this. I'm at the church, which has really, really good Wi-Fi. I just upgraded the router here, I think last year at the kind of near the end of last year. So we went from maybe a 65 meg per second download speed all the way up to like 300. So big improvement. So I was happy to be able to do this. All right, I am going to call that a review. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, all the fun stuff. So if you enjoyed this review and enjoyed my other content, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you to everybody that came into the chat and checked this out and hanging out with me. Hit the notification button. You'll get notified anytime I go live or release a video. I do not have a set schedule at the moment right now. When the opportunity arises for me to go live with a review or maybe a studio hangout or whatever, I'll do so. If you want to support the channel and support my music, head over to my Bandcamp page. It's scrolling right along the bottom of the stream, and there you can listen to my music, or perhaps, I don't know, make a purchase. That would certainly help out. But anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you everybody in the chat for hanging out. And I will catch you all next time as I try to end the stream on my iPad. All right, have a good night. Take care.